I know that Dusty recorded a lot of my songs, and I do remember specifically with Wishin' and Hopin' that she had recorded it. She was in New York. It was a time when the Grammys were held in 3 different cities at the same night. They hadn't become the huge television production that it became. But that was my date, you know. Somebody said, hey, will you take Dusty? And I never met Dusty. I think that was maybe the first. So I'm not sure she was up for an award. I know I was. I was for, like, I think the orchestra arrangement of Alfie, which I think won that year. But much of the conversation at dinner was trying to convince Dusty to put Wishin' and Hopin' out in the U.S. and to soothe her fears, or kind of... Because Dusty was not the most secure in the world. My dealings with her, you know, just unsure of the vocal being great, of the record being great enough. I only actually got in the studio once with her, you know, actually recorded her. Everything else she was doing quite beautifully with other producers. And, you know, I think maybe the best album that Dusty ever did, when it's all said and done, for me, would be what she did in Memphis. I mean, that's a pretty great, brilliant album. I mean, for me, that would be the vintage one. Beautifully produced, great sounding tracks. Dusty singing Land of Make Believe. The Land of Make Believe, yeah. But the one time that I recorded Dusty was for Casino Royale and The Look of Love. So I was scoring the picture. It started out as an instrumental theme to be a very sexual, sensual piece of music that would kind of underline Ursula Andress's part. So I just kind of focused on what would work. The films that I've done, I've always functioned this way. I take what will be right for the film, not what will be right for a potential hit record, you know? What's right? What melody works? So I finished that. It worked in the movie. I guess Charlie Feldman, the producer, said, yeah, who can we get to sing it? So we got Dusty. And Dusty came in the studio, and I recorded her just like with a rhythm section, saxophone, great sax player. And she just felt so unsure of herself. She was delivering killer vocals, great vocals. But when it came time to listen to a playback, she didn't want to be in the control room with me or the engineer or anybody else. She wanted a playback set up in another room, another control room, where she could go alone, by herself. And I just thought, you know, this lady's really hard on herself. She'd come out feeling, I'd hear the same thing she just heard. I said, it's great, Dusty. She said, I don't know, you think so? I don't know. It was great. I mean, she just had this voice that, you know, has a stamp. It's indelible. You just hear her for a couple of bars, you know, you got, there's Dusty, there's Dion, there's Aretha, you know, there's Gladys. There are not many singers, you know, you can hear say, yeah, that's who it is. And Dusty always knew. I mean, that vocal on The Look of Love for the movie, maybe I showed her the clip of Ursula Andress, and maybe I didn't. But I mean, the arrangement that I wrote for her, which just was kind of a Brazilian groove with a guitar and a very breathy tenor saxophone. I'm sure I described the scene to her. If she didn't actually see the clip. So say I described the scene and she didn't see the clip. Or say that I never described the scene and never saw the clip or never knew anything about it. I dare say it would have come out just as sexy and sensuous. Because she was capable of tucking in and just kind of being intimate like that, you know? And not over-singing, and just hearing maybe what she was hearing in a very small configuration. No strings. That was the record they made later on for the single. Just bass, drums, guitar. I'm not sure we had piano in there, and a tenor sax. And she got it right away. I mean, there was no other way to go for her. But she's a natural. She was a natural. And she just kept getting better. And that's my read on it. I think what happened probably with Dusty is the more she recorded, to me, the better she got, the better she sounded. The more confident, maybe, I don't know. I can listen to You Don't Say You Love Me, and God, I heard it so many times in England, you know, and in this country. And I thought, yeah, she touches me. Maybe it was the amount of reverb on the record that bothered me. I thought it was maybe over the top a little. But it's big sounding record. But, hey, you go back to the Memphis album, I keep coming back to that. That's just brilliant. Clean, clear. I don't know how many vocal fixes they had to do on that, if any. I wasn't there. Chips Moman produced the thing. But, you know, I think she just grew as an artist. But that's what you're supposed to do. The minute you stagnate, stand still, you, I think you kind of lost. I think she became more soulful the more she got into the R&B world, the more comfortable she felt going into that world. And being white, I mean, it's not so different than Michael McDonald, you know? They're both white. I mean, there are a lot of white singers that can sing authentically, like R&B sound, you know? But I think Dusty probably got very comfortable the more she was exposed to what was coming out of Detroit, particularly, you know? Well, I just don't know what to do with myself. Yes, it was originally cut. I did it with Tommy Hunt. I may not have written the best arrangement. I like the song, always liked the song. And, you know, Dusty brought something to it that it was a cover again, because it had been done first before her. But she just brought like a walk-off kind of performance to the record, you know, stepped right off the record, you know, took command, which she did on all the records. There was a presence there. I mean, there are artists that sink into the track or don't stand out or don't jut out. I like those artists that can just, you feel they're in total command, you know. I mean, they are present. Their placement, and it's not about mixing, it's just their placement of how they project and how they sing and how they take charge. So I just refer to it as stepping off a record. It makes it much easier to mix a record with an artist like that. You know, they've already done a lot of the work for you. You don't have to keep pushing them out. Because even when you push them out on the mixing board, you have to be louder, but it doesn't take into account the performance, the taking command, the taking charge. That you can't do on a mixing board. Well, the expression, if I use sailing above the track for Dusty, yeah, that's a similar expression to taking charge, taking control, being in front of the track without being so far pushed out in front that the band sounds like they're coming in from Japan. I mean, I'm not talking about that kind of. And when you sail, you're taking charge. And you are. And the beauty thing about something like that is you can have a singer sing, and you can have a band playing, and maybe a clustered arrangement, it may be cluttered, it may be busy, and then you have a voice that somehow just rides above it, or flies above it. And that certainly was Dusty. Yeah. I never know, you know, I keep coming back to Memphis, but I never feel on there, well, you know, the track's a little bit low, the bass may be a little low, the drums are a little bit low. Never. No. I mean, I always feel that things are right in the right place. I mean, I don't like records that push the singer so far in front that the orchestra is. I mean, the real safe mix on a record. Yeah, I want the words to be understood. I want the singer to be in charge, but I don't believe in playing so safe that you have to kind of clamp down on what's coming out of the orchestra. See, I don't know in the 60s how many women were really taking charge, or taking part of running a record date. I think when Carole King made Tapestry, she may have certainly dictated the bass line. I mean, you're not talking about musicians, the singer-songwriter like Carole King or like Elton. I don't know what Elton did in the studio, or what he dictated to Paul Buckmaster. But as for a woman having a real impact on the way a record was made, I don't have a strong feeling that a lot of the artists, a lot of the female artists, and I think if you take Motown, I think those tracks were kind of made. Bring the singers in, you know. Aretha's very musical, but there you see, the minute you got somebody who plays the keyboard and who knows what key they want to sing in, and she knows where it's going to be too high, and take it down a half a step, and then play it a half step lower. I mean, I was recording a song with Aretha, it'd be 8, 9, 10 years ago, and I was talking to her on the phone. I said to Aretha, you know, we're going to do it in this key, G. And she said, no, you're not doing it in G. Well, where do you want to do it, Aretha? And she said, well, I'll do it in B flat. I said, that's going to be too high for you. No, it's not too high. And she went right to the piano, played the whole song, sang the whole song in B flat. Say, so you know, but Aretha was one, and how she was in the early days, I can't help but think that maybe she was the same, but she was the consummate musician. She could play piano, right? And you say, Aretha, I don't hear background voices. There are background voices going on. So that's something, you know. But I do think a lot of the records that were made, like Gladys Knight and the Pips made, the track was kind of made, they came in and did the vocal. So how much impact a lot of artists had, I don't know that. I doubt it. A lot of the female artists. I mean, you're talking about male artists too, you know? I don't know that recording B.J. Thomas or Tommy Hunt or Chuck Jackson, you know, looking at that period, or Gene Pitney. I mean, Gene came in and just, I wrote the arrangement. He knew the song. He delivered. So I think it's a real plus of an artist contributing to the way a record's being made. I wouldn't doubt that Dusty had great musicality and could maybe change a bass line or something like that on a date. And it can be a detriment. I've seen artists come in and say, I don't hear the cellos playing that, I hear the cellos playing this. And you got a whole string section sitting there. I know a couple of artists in particular, you know, it's just a waste of time. And sometimes it works, and sometimes the line they came up with is better, but when you're dealing with 40 people in a studio, it's a risky game and a very expensive game. So I'm glad to hear this about Dusty, that maybe she had more confidence in making those records in England, like with her producer, because she had more comfortability with him, more secure, that she could speak her mind. And maybe like with me doing, the one time we were in the studio, the only thing I got was, I don't think the vocals maybe good enough, you know. I think the show was called The Bacharach Sound. I don't know whether the Hitmaker album had come out yet. Maybe it had, maybe it hadn't. The album that I had made. That was very successful in England and not successful in the U.S. And I had not a clue what I was doing on that show, you know. I mean, I just put my hands in the fate of the people that were running the show. I was grateful because I was with Angie Dickinson at the time. And Angie, we weren't married yet, but she was in England with me, and she was able to say, that camera angle is not so great. Be able to protect me a little bit because she'd been in front of the cameras so long. So, but I remember very little about the show. I mean, the basic thing that I remember about that show was driving Les Cox's convertible. And, you know, I'd never driven on the other side of the seat, and it was a Sunday afternoon. And the idea would be there would be a cut where I'd go by Albert Hall, and though I was driving, I was to stand up and throw it downbeat like this, right in front of Albert Hall with that shot. And that would be an edit to something in the studio. And the cameraman was on the front of the car. He hit the brake by accident and knocked him right off on a Sunday afternoon outside of Hyde Park in front of Albert Hall. Oh my God. when the groups in England were all writing their own songs, not taking outside songs, it had a massive impact on the industry there, and spread quite quickly here. It became like an era of the singer-songwriter, and that still exists, where you don't have that artist that you used to be able to go to with a song. So it's been going on for a long time. There used to be Tony Bennett, you know. You take him a new song. Sinatra. We're talking like way back then. We're talking about now. These acts write their own songs. They close the door for... So I'm glad when I wrote a lot of these songs, and I'm still writing. It's just not as easy because there are not the formidable people like a Dusty out there that need new material, you know. They all started to want to write, I'd be a part writer in the song. And maybe it became, in some cases, greed. Let me have a piece of the pie. I want to be a part-time producer. It wasn't enough just to be the artist. I want to be co-producer. I want to be co-publisher. I mean, there's just terrible stories that used to come out from days back then when it all started to change. Like the artist that didn't write say, well, I'll record the song, but I want 50% of the publishing. Please, you know. And I understand, beside a bigger piece of the pie, I think it's really kind of like they want to be actively contributing. It's not like the old days where, you know, the track was made, Gladys comes in with the pips and puts her voice on. Dusty really grew as an artist, you know. I mean, well, she was in a group called the Springfields, right? And I wish I'd known Dusty better. I really do. I wish I'd done more with her. I know after she was sick, I had this idea to do an album with 3 singers. Because I knew Dusty couldn't do a whole... I would love to have done a whole album with Dusty. Write everything. All new stuff. Or take some old stuff. Stuff that she hadn't done, you know. And though we talked about it, she just wasn't up to it. And I've said it before, but Dusty looms larger after death than in actual life, I believe.